Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher. And in today's video, I thought I would do something a little bit different and tackle the question of mod use in Jurassic World Evolution 2 and share with all of you some of my thoughts about it, as well as some of the interesting responses I got off Reddit when I asked this question there. So where to start? And I think the best place is to begin by discussing my history with modding JWE1 and JWE2 and my reasons for using mods with the current game. So firstly, I think it's safe to say that I'm a hardcore modder of all games. In fact, I don't think there are many games that I play that I haven't modded. But I think modding is vitally important to gaming as a whole. Modders have kept a lot of old, defunct games active, and in many cases have created some pretty awe-inspiring projects that have really pushed these old games and old engines to the next level. A lot of mods prevent games dying out entirely, and there are some really good examples here. Star Wars Empire at War and Command & Conquer games, they have really strong and prominent modding communities. City Skylines has a very strong modding community. There's some footage of Sins of a Solar Empire that I'm playing for you all now, has a very prominent modding community as well. And these are games that are, 5, 10, maybe even more years older than that, but they're very active, and I think it's really important for gaming and gaming history as a whole that these games are kept active. When it comes to Jurassic World Evolution 1, I played that game without mods for a very long period of time because the modding community wasn't there for Jurassic World Evolution 1 from the start. So we had a good, quite a good sort of 2-year period, I think it was, where there were no mods at all. So we all played what's termed the vanilla experience of the game, and we all got a very good indication of what the vanilla experience of Jurassic World Evolution 1 was. Jurassic World Evolution 1 had so many limitations and was so very bare bones that once modding did start, I think it was vital in keeping the game going and keeping things active again. Whereas I think if mods hadn't been around for Jurassic World Evolution 1, I don't think people would have been playing it for as long as they did. When we get to Jurassic World Evolution 2, it is my opinion, and the opinion of quite a few of the people that responded to my question in Reddit, that Jurassic World Evolution 2 is not a big enough step up from Jurassic World Evolution 1 in terms of the basic gameplay and the way that it works. Jurassic World Evolution 2 is basically no different to Jurassic World Evolution 1, and as a result, that means that the experience is basically the same. So the idea that by modding Jurassic World Evolution 2, I'm sort of ignoring the base game experience, I don't believe that. We've already had the base game experience of Jurassic World Evolution 2, we had it with Jurassic World Evolution 1. So to me, I'm not ignoring the base game. I mean, I did play the base game for 2 weeks before I started modding the thing, and it was no different. And I stand by quite a lot of the criticisms that I had in the review of the game when it came out. I don't think it was a big enough improvement. So I'm not going to put myself through, 2 years of the base game experience like I did with Jurassic World Evolution 1, when it's no different. That's my position on it. And in fact, I would also argue when it comes to Jurassic World Evolution 2, my experience of the game, I would argue with the mods that I use, which are mostly just a few decorative mods, mostly just a couple of new species, mostly just Kyodenic's free build mod. The experience I have with Jurassic World Evolution 2 is not radically different to the experience that someone who is not using mods will have of the game. In fact, I would say there is a bigger gap between the experience some users on consoles are having compared to PC than I would argue there is between me and another person on a PC, but me using the mods I'm using and the other person not. But we'll get into that more in a minute. With all that being said, I have seen a lot of negativity, and this is why I'm making this video. Basically, I've seen a lot of negativity from people in the community around the use of mods, especially with Jurassic World Evolution 2. And actually there's far more negativity than there ever was with Jurassic World Evolution 1. And I've seen this in my streams, I've seen it in Evo streams when I've been moderating for her, and I've seen it in general responses on Reddit and other places in the community. Most of this seems to come from console users who take the position that either A, it's unfair for content creators to use mods on YouTube when they can't, or that B, that it's unfair that PC players can have mods but console gamers can't. That seems to be the two most prevalent arguments that I've seen. Just as a response to the console gamers especially, as a general point, I do not think that Jurassic World Evolution 1 or Jurassic World Evolution 2 should ever have been on consoles in the first place. Both games are very compromised on the consoles. Jurassic World Evolution 1, when it came out for consoles, had a huge amount of compromise. Limited graphics, limited species counts, just off the top of my head. And Jurassic World Evolution 2 has a number of compromises as well. I've seen a lot of console players reporting problems playing the game on their consoles. Reports of overheating consoles when they're playing the game for more than half an hour. Corrupted saves every time there's an update. Unable to load into saves and it just crashing entirely. And the limitations that they also have, the limitations on the number of dinosaur species they can use, for example, not having all of the decorations, not having mixed eras if they're on a last gen consoles. These are all compromises that have been made to make the game work on a console, which negatively affect the gaming experience. And as a direct result of the requirement to make the game run on a console in the first place, PC gamers have ended up with a limited product that could have been a lot greater and a lot bigger and a far more developed experience. But because of hardware limitations when you're comparing a console to a PC, the hardware limitations and everything else, PC players ended up with a game that was not as good as it could have been, and console gamers have ended up with a game that's not very well designed for their consoles. So in a way, both sides of the community have suffered so that we can have the game on both sides of the community, if that makes sense. And I don't think it's unfair to say that a game like this should never be on console. Consoles are better for first-person shooters and RPGs and driving games and sports games. That's where they have an advantage. But when it comes to a PC, where you have a mouse and a keyboard, strategy games and park building and city building games, that's where they all tend to go. There are not many city and park building games and strategy games that end up going onto console, because the mouse just gives you the advantage of the precision that you need when you're playing these games. So I think Jurassic World Evolution should just have been on PC. And if they had made it just for PC, then who knows what a better product we could have had in the end. Now, with all that in mind, I was curious to get some feedback from the wider community about this matter, about modding. So I went to Reddit and asked the community for their thoughts on mods, on mod use, and on YouTubers using mods. And I got a lot of interesting results. So let's go through these. The first thing that was pretty clear from just a cursory look over the responses I got was that most people are generally supportive of using mods on the game, and that some people specifically switched from playing on consoles to playing on PC specifically for modding, and there's quite a few good responses for this, which I'm hopefully going to have on screen for you now. I did say to the people on Reddit I would not show their names, but the whole question is still on Reddit, so if anyone wants to go and read it all themselves, they can. There were also others that took the same stance as me, that Jurassic World Evolution 2 was not a big enough improvement compared to Jurassic World Evolution 1, so why not mod the game in that case? There was one particular comment that is a really clear indication of this. He states that no game is perfect, and that's why mods exist in the first place. So playing on a PC gives him the freedom to adjust the game to his liking, improving the capabilities of the game, and getting rid of some of the grind. And I think it's not unfair to say that Jurassic World Evolution 2 can be very grindy. The question on Reddit also got some responses about the strange kickback against modding that was discussed by a few people. There was one particular Redditor who raised the interesting fact that there's more kickback to modding Jurassic World Evolution 2 than there ever was with Jurassic World Evolution 1, which is kind of an oddity. The people that mostly talked about the kickback against modding attributed it to console players not liking mods, and usually attributed it to the younger members of the community, which they said, I suppose if you have a lot of younger members of the community, then they're obviously going to have they phrased it as childish reactions. I don't want to say that. I think it's a fear of missing out reaction. One thing that did come out of all the Reddit posts was that there was an interesting thought that content creators should never use mods at all, or are responsible for a lot of clickbaiting. For example, one Redditor brought up the fact that some mod-using YouTube creators create very weird parks that are just way too strange for him to enjoy, and plenty of others raised the fact that thumbnails by certain YouTube content creators, whose names we will not be discussing here, were either deceptive, clickbaiting, or weren't indicating when mods were being used. And they raised the example of a thumbnail that was advertising new species coming to the game, and the particular YouTuber in question did not make it clear that it was a mod. And that was quite a common thread through the Reddit responses, that certain YouTubers were making clickbaity thumbnails and clickbaity videos, which were annoying the community because they would get excited and then find out it's a mod. There were also some smaller but very important points as well. Ron Redditor raised the point that people on both sides of this debate shouldn't think themselves superior to the other. People who use mods should not think themselves superior to people who don't, and people who don't shouldn't see themselves as playing the game in a better way than people who mod it. I think that's really a really important point. Like, we shouldn't have that division in the community. We should all just be happy to play the game that we have and sort of be more wholesome, I suppose is the point. One really important and last thing though that the Reddit question highlighted, and something that I really personally agree with, is the idea of creativity. Something that quite a few people on the Reddit said was that most of the issues around mod use was usually connected to the idea of people lacking creativity with park design in the first place. And there were some really good points that came from this, with one of the best states that you can make beautiful parks without a single mod. Chances are that if you lack creativity, the use of mods won't help your park building skills. And I really agree with that. I've always maintained mods do not make nice parks, they simply make nice parks even better. And most of the methods of which you can make a really nice looking park on the game are doing things that mods don't touch. I think it's really important to that point that, like, if you're lacking creativity in the first place, mods won't help with that. So if you can't make a good park because you're not creative enough to, don't have a go at people using mods to make their parks look even better. Let's round up this Q&A that I had with the community and go through a few conclusions that I can gather here. Modding is generally seen positively or something that is up to the individual user, and people who actively kick back against mod users and make a big fuss of it are generally seen as either being childish, having a fear of missing out, or people who are generally spiteful from the idea that console gamers can't have mods, so nobody should. I think what I would say in response to that is that everyone should be allowed to play the game the way they want to. There's no wrong or right way to play the game, and disliking one side of the community for the way they play is just a very closed-minded perspective. Number 2, at the same time, content creators on YouTube especially should be mindful of console players when they're using mods, and it would be a good idea to create videos with them in mind, or highlight methods where people who don't use mods can make similar elements of their park. And I think I'm going to take this one quite on hand myself. I think with my Jurassic World Architect videos, I'm going to start, make sure I have both ideas for mod users and ideas for people who don't use mods, so that they can be a bit more generalized. Number 3, content on YouTube that uses mods or is about mods has to be specifically labeled as such and not clickbaity. While I don't think my video thumbnails or titles are clickbaity, I think I am going to make a few alterations to my thumbnails for my videos, so it's very clear that I'm using mods or they're discussing mods, because I think that was a really important point that came through from a lot of the Reddit users. And obviously, conclusion number 4, the most important conclusion for me: creativity doesn't stem from modding. It stems from good generalized park building traits, and mods won't help you with that. It's important to learn good park building methods to improve your parks, and those sorts of skills can be applied to PC and to console users. The final thing I want to say is that Triclaw Gaming is quite a small content creating channel. We don't have 2,000 subs yet. We're fairly small, and I was quite surprised that I got as many responses as I did. So I want to issue an open thank you to everyone who did comment on the post and who took part in this little Q&A. What are your ideas of mods and mod use in games? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about modding games in general, not just Jurassic World Evolution 2, but do you use mods in other games? Do you think modding is generally more or less accepted on those other games? What do you think about it? Leave a comment down below. And while you're leaving that comment, don't forget to give us a like, and if you're new here, subscribe for more content from all of us at Triclaw Gaming. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.